Probably, one question that may come to your mind seeing this topic is asking yourself, what is sovereignty? Or you could probably ask yourself, who is a sovereign? A sovereign is a powerful ruler. Sovereignty means being powerful, the ability to exercise your powers without anyone controlling you. In this topic, we shall look at the meaning of sovereignty, the various characteristics and the types of sovereignty. Before we begin, let's look at the lesson objectives. Lesson objectives is same as scope of discussion. And the objectives would include definition. We shall also look at characteristics of sovereignty, and as well as looking at types of sovereignty. What is sovereignty? What does sovereignty mean? Let's look at the definition of sovereignty. The word sovereignty comes from the Latin word suprenus, which means supreme. So sovereignty means supremacy, to be supreme, not subject to control. When we talk about sovereignty, we mean that no state can exist without sovereignty, because sovereignty is the essence of every state. Again, according to Jim Borden, sovereignty means the supreme power over citizens and subjects. Sovereignty is the supreme power over citizens and subjects, and it is the ability of a state to carry out its decisions without any external interference. That is the ability of a state to carry out its decisions without any external what? Interference. Now let's look at the various types of sovereignty. What are the various types of sovereignty? Types of sovereignty. Of course, this picture shows the various types of sovereignty that we have. We have popular sovereignty, political sovereignty, legal sovereignty, de facto, titular, actual, and so on and so forth. Let's look at the titular sovereignty and actual sovereignty. Titular sovereignty is the type of sovereignty enjoyed by a ceremonial head. For instance, a king or a queen in a constitutional monarchy. While actual sovereignty is the sovereignty enjoyed by people who are voted into power. For instance, in Britain, the cabinet enjoys the actual sovereignty, while the Queen of England enjoys the titular sovereignty. Now let's look at popular sovereignty. It is the sovereignty of a ruler who gains power through the popular consent of the people. That is, through elections. Again, we have the jure sovereignty. This type of sovereignty is rested on the constitution. It is based on the constitution. It is a legitimate kind of sovereignty. We also have de facto sovereignty, which is a sovereignty that has to do with the gaining of power by force. Take for instance, the power of a military leader is a de facto sovereignty. Again, external sovereignty is another type of sovereignty, which is the sovereignty of a state to be supreme and make her decisions without any external interference from any other state. We also have another type of sovereignty, which is political sovereignty. What is political sovereignty? This type of sovereignty is usually enjoyed by the electorate. It is the sovereignty possessed by the electorate. The electorates are very powerful. They determine who to occupy a particular position by means of possessing their voters' card. So, by whatever means, they determine who to occupy a particular what? Position. This is political what? Sovereignty. We also have the legal sovereignty. And it is the sovereignty of the supreme law-making authority. It is determined by the authority given to a group of people by the electorate. Most times, the parliament perform legal authority, that is legal sovereignty, because of the authority given to them by the electorate and as well as the people. Let's look at some of the feedback questions. Feedback questions. 1. What is sovereignty? 2. Explain any 5 types of sovereignty. You have to answer these questions in your notes. If you don't understand them, you can watch the video over again. All right. Now that you have answered these questions, let's look at the characteristics of sovereignty. What are the characteristics of sovereignty? Characteristics of sovereignty. As you can see, we have different attributes of sovereignty. It is absolute, permanent, inalienable, it is original, and so on and so forth. What do we mean when we say one attribute of sovereignty is exclusiveness? It means that there cannot be two sovereigns in one state at a given time. So, there can be two drivers on a bus. It is one at a time. So, no two rulers can exist at the same time. Again, sovereignty is inalienable. Inalienability simply means that sovereignty cannot be removed from a state. It is the soul of a state. No state can exist without sovereignty. Also, there is all-comprehensiveness, which means that sovereignty is comprehensive. It is powerful and universally applicable to every individual, whether rich or poor. So, sovereignty is all-comprehensive. For instance, the Constitution is sovereign. It is powerful and everybody must obey the Constitution. We have indivisibility, which means that sovereignty cannot be divided into parts. It is not something that can be shared. Sovereignty is just one in a state. So, once sovereignty is divided, it is no more it means that the essence of that state is destroyed, because sovereignty is the essence of a given state. Another feature is permanence. By this, we mean that sovereignty is permanent. In as much as the state remains, there must be sovereignty. In as much as the state exists, then sovereignty would exist. So the death of a ruler does not make sovereignty to go away, does not lead to the destruction of sovereignty. Sovereignty exists in as much as the state what? Exists. Another type is absoluteness. Absoluteness. When we say that sovereignty is absolute, what do we mean? As a feature of sovereignty, absoluteness means that sovereignty is unlimited. It is very powerful. It is without limits. It cannot be restricted. It is wide. It is very superior. Everybody is under it. No one is above sovereignty. It is unlimited. Another feature or characteristics of sovereignty is universality. Universality as a feature of sovereignty means that sovereignty is universally applicable to everybody. It means that sovereignty is all comprehensive. Every individual and every association is subject to the sovereignty of the state. No one is exempted from the sovereignty of the state. Everybody is under the state. Now, let's answer this question. Where does sovereignty reside in a state? Where does sovereignty reside? Who rules in a state? Where does sovereignty reside in a state? Where does sovereignty reside in a state? Now, in any state where there is anarchy, chaos, war, such state does not possess sovereignty, because when there is no peace in a state must be organized. When a state is unorganized, then such a state does not possess sovereignty. While a state where monarchy is practiced, such state possess sovereignty, but the person who possesses the sovereignty is either the king or the queen, the monarch. While in a state where oligarchy is practiced, then sovereignty resides among the few persons who rules the state. In a democratic dispensation, then the people possess sovereignty, which means that sovereignty lies among the people of the state in a democratic system. Let's look at summary of the lesson. In summary, sovereignty is the fundamental characteristic of a state. It is a necessary attribute of a state. And again, it is absolute and it is perpetual. Rulers merely are custodians of sovereignty. No state can exist without what? Sovereignty. In a nutshell, sovereignty is the essence of a state. Your assignment, evaluation questions. As your assignment, 1, what is sovereignty? 2, identify any 5 types or kinds of sovereignty. 3, discuss 5 characteristics of sovereignty. You are expected to do this assignment, study your notes, read ahead until we meet again in our next class. Do have a wonderful time to yourself. Goodbye.